What is up? What is up? Welcome to the Mitch Davis Show, OVC Tournament preview. I'm going to be talking with a guy that is a friend of mine now, who we have a common, I'm going to call family member because Miss Gay Edge is a family friend, is a family member of ours. And obviously she's blood to this guy, Adam Wells, sports anchor for WPSD Local 6 out of Paducah, Kentucky. Going to be joining me to talk about the OVC tournament and Murray State basketball. Adam, welcome to the Mitch Davis Show. I think it's your second or third time back on the podcast.
Yeah, Mitch, thanks. I appreciate you having me on to talk a little college basketball. It's always my favorite time of the year and got a lot to talk about, so it's always a pleasure. Like you said, I guess, through my Aunt Gay, we're family, I guess.
Man, there is we were talking about there's nobody better in this world than Gay. She is golly, she's the greatest. But Adam, let's talk about it. Murray State 18-0, OVC regular season champs heading into this OVC tournament. What do you expect to see out of the Racers, and how close will it actually be?
That's a really good question. This Murray State team has really been special. If you followed what they've done all year long, they've won games in so many different ways. They have blown out teams. Look at the top of the OVC, Belmont, number 2 team in the OVC. They've beaten them twice this year by a combined 53 points, I think it's what it was. But they've also won 4 games in the last 3 weeks, granted all 4 of those games on the road, where they've trailed with about 6 minutes left to go in the game. Best example of that is this past Saturday, final game of the regular season. They're at Southeast Missouri. They had just won the regular season outright championship in the OVC 2 nights before at home. Now they're on the road. Southeast Missouri was up by 12 points on Murray State with 5 minutes left to go. Murray finished on this incredible 16-1 run and ended up winning the game, completing the regular season sweep in the OVC, becoming the 6th team in the conference's history to run the table, and then the first to do it at 18-0 since they went to an 18-0 schedule. So this Murray team could do it in a variety of different ways. They've had their biggest challenges on the road, but they've risen to those challenges. And now you're going to go into what is going to be a neutral site. However, if you've seen Murray fans travel, especially to the tournament, the OVC tournament, when it's been in Evansville, even before when it was in Nashville, this Murray State fan base likes to travel. So they'll play on Friday night in the semifinals against the team yet to be determined. I think it'll probably end up being Southeast Missouri again. But that's going to be a Murray State home game. And when this team plays in front of its fans and gets the fans going, they are really, really, really hard to beat. So I think it's going to be a pretty good week for the Racers in Evansville.
Adam, you and I have been around Murray State, myself as a fan and you as a media member. And talk about this team and how special they are, because looks like a Murray State team that honestly is probably one of the better teams that Murray State's had in program history. Talk about that program right now.
Yeah, and it's really hard to believe when you're saying that, because you look at Murray State history, especially in the last 10 years or so, and the teams that they've had. The guy that I work with right now, Jeff Bidwell, he is currently doing a 10-part documentary on the Murray State team from 10 years ago, the 2011-2012 team that went 31-1 in the regular season, finished the year 32-2, I think. And they consider that the greatest team in school history. That Isaiah Cannon, a guy named Ed Daniel, incredible. And then you had Cameron Payne that came to the program, and of course, a couple of years ago, Morant. Now he's doing his thing in the NBA. But now this team in 2022 potentially is up there with the best that they've ever had. I mean, you start at the top with today at some point the OVC postseason awards will come out. KJ Williams is going to be most likely, hands down, OVC Player of the Year. Then they have a guy named Tevin Brown, who's the OVC's all-time three-point shooter. And then go down the list from there. They have a lot of great players. Justice Hill, their point guard, is probably one of the most improved players that I've ever seen in the 10 years that I've covered Murray State from one year to the next. Last year, he really struggled. I think a lot of that was due to the COVID year and not having time to get ready for the season. And this year, he's been an unbelievable. They got 3 guys. Those 3 guys have all gone for at least 30 at one point this year. So they got a lot of scoring threats. Defensively, they're insane. I mean, they will shut teams down. And in case in point, holding Belmont this past Thursday night to just 42 points or 43 points, a season low for Belmont. If you know anything about Belmont scores in the 80s, 90s almost every single night. So this team can do it in a variety of different ways. And you got to credit Matt McMahon, the head coach. last year, this team was finished 13-13. And going into the offseason, he made some changes, and a couple guys left the program that you kind of thought might have been some focal pieces going into this year, but they left the program. He brings in a couple different Division I transfers, made use of the portal really well. Brought in a guy named Trey Hannibal from South Carolina. He's their backup point guard. He's like a bulldog. Matt calls him a linebacker playing the point guard position. He's incredible, most athletic kid on the floor. Carter Collins is one of their starters. He's a defender. He's their best defensive player. He's a transfer from Davidson. And then their other big next to KJ Williams is DJ Burns. DJ Burns is probably one of the most exciting players that I've ever seen at Murray State. He always plays with a smile. He's one of the best offensive rebounders in the country. He's a transfer from Southern. So this is a complete Murray team from start to finish.
Before we talk about the rest of the OVC tournament, I want to ask you about those Murray State fans. I get a lot of questions down here because everybody knows that I like to cheer on Murray State and from a fan standpoint. Everybody asks me, why is Murray State so consistently so good? And honestly, to me, it's because of the fans, the CFSB. When you go to the CFSB, there's 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 fans on any given night. What makes Murray State basketball so consistent? A lot of correlation to Kentucky basketball at the mid-major ranks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's at a smaller level. You got to look at where they are in Kentucky. Basketball's life in Kentucky. I mean, high school basketball, everyone goes to all the high school games. And when you have a small town like Murray, I mean, there's not a lot to do in Murray, Kentucky. But when the basketball team's playing, I mean, what better thing to do on a Thursday or Saturday night when they're playing than to go to a Murray State game, especially when they have a great product. And they've been really, really lucky and blessed that they've had some incredible coaches over the last 20 plus years. I mean, you look at every coach that they've had over the last 20 years has gone on to bigger and better things. Murray State as a springboard. He got, before Matt's going to do wherever he's going to do after this year, probably. Steve Prohm going to Iowa State before Matt, and then before Steve was Billy Kennedy, went to Texas A&M. Before Billy Kennedy was Mick Cronin, and he went to Cincinnati. Now he's at UCLA, and before him was Mark Gottfried, who went to Alabama, then NC State. So I mean, you look at all of these guys and coaches that they've had to come through the program. I mean, it's pretty incredible, and it's a tradition that they built, and it's really been going on since the 50s, 40s. And it's just a tradition that they've kept up, and the small town just rallies around them. And it is definitely special when you get a really good Murray team like this year in a game, say, like the Belmont game, for instance. That was their last home game. I mean, they filled the place. I mean, it wasn't quite John Morant level fan capacity, but it was pretty incredible, and the town supports it. And not only the town, but really Western Kentucky as a whole, when the team gets really good like they are now. I mean, again, in Western Kentucky, we have a lot of college Kentucky fans and Louisville fans, but I mean, as far as getting to go to a game, it's easy to drive to Murray State.
See, I'm one of those Kentucky fans. I live 2.5 hours away from Murray. It's easier for me to go to the CFSB than it is to drive all the way up to Lexington. And the product is just as good. And that's where my fandom with Murray State basketball is, because it was so close. Why not? I mean, that's the other school in Kentucky. In Kentucky, and you know this, Adam, you're either a Louisville fan or you're a Kentucky fan. There is no crossbreeding. You're a Louisville or Kentucky. Now, on the other hand, you cheer for Western, you cheer for Murray, you cheer for Morehead. And it's funny how the little pockets around where you're located is who you cheer for. And for me, being in Memphis, it's Murray State. I love the program. I love watching it. I want to ask you about Ja Morant. You and I, you are from the Murray State side of things. I'm a Grizzlies fan. This guy is like unbelievable. How much has Murray State enjoyed watching him develop? Because every time I log on Twitter, Ja's mouthing off about Murray State being the best team in the country or something fun. I love Ja. And have we seen the peak Ja yet, or is there still better to come?
Oh, he's not even scratching the ceiling, like you and I talked about before this. I mean, there's still so much more that Ja can do. I mean, from the first game that he played in a Murray State uniform, he played against Middle Tennessee State his freshman year. And the first basket he scored was it was off of a missed three from another Murray State player. Ja goes in, cleans up the rebound, and dunks it. Comes out of nowhere. And that was the first play he ever made as a Murray State Racer. And that's a freshman starting. At that point, we knew who Ja Morant was. We just didn't know he was going to be Morant, and that was kind of that, okay, this guy might be pretty good. And then we saw the progression of him throughout his Murray career, and now he's just gotten better and better with the Grizzlies, and his impact on Murray is still felt today. I mean, people in the stands, you still hear talking about Ja, and Coach McMahon talks about him all the time. I talk to Matt, constantly about what Ja's doing and the rise that he's been on, and he still comes back and hangs out with the players, and pretty regularly. He still has one or two friends that are on the team. He played. We talk about KJ Williams, talk about Tevin Brown. Ja played with those two guys, and they're very close to Ja. So Ja will come up and on his off days and during the summer and practice with the guys. And Ja was actually up at a game a couple weeks ago at Murray, the Austin P game, and was there to kind of celebrate right before he left to go to the All-Star game, and obviously a pretty warm reception. And he already has his jersey retired in the rafters at the CFSB Center, and they've already put Rookie of the Year on that banner. And you never know, the way he's playing right now, they might put NBA MVP on that banner too this year.
Hey, how about an NBA championship? I'm a lifelong Grizzly fan, and the NBA championship would absolutely I don't even.
It would.
And I'll go on record saying this: the Grizzlies are what we thought the Tigers would be. The Tigers are what the Grizzlies are, and it's just so funny to watch. And Ja, honestly, he has rallied this city around the Grizzlies. Like, all of us love Ja. And another guy that's right below us in South Haven, which is 20 minutes away from the Forum, Shat Buchanan, who played at Murray State. Another guy that is equally as good, doesn't get the credit. But talk about Shat Buchanan. He's a guy that I've covered at the Hustle, and I love the guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah, Shaq's kind of that. Shaq was an incredible Murray State player when he was here, and I don't want to say he got overshadowed by Ja, but he kind of got overshadowed by Ja. I mean, everything that Shaq did was amazing, and it's no surprise that he has done well with the Hustle. We followed him when he's been there. I mean, he threw up 40 points earlier this year in a game, and he had that short 10-day stint that he signed with the Grizzlies. I wish they would go ahead and bring him up on the main roster because I think he's deserved it. He's worked his butt off, and I think he's deserved it. Shaq's awesome. He's one of the most personable guys you'll ever meet. He was up for the Belmont game along with another member of the Memphis Hustle, and played for a guy that played for the Racers too, Darnell Cowart. Both of them were up for that game. I talked to Shaq, and Shaq just came up and gave me a big hug and said, "Hey, Adam, how you doing?" He's such a good guy, and I couldn't be happier for him. And he's a guy that doesn't obviously have the skill set that Ja does, and is not on that level, but he has so much talent, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
It was fun. When I got to cover the Hustle, I was like, I forgot Shat Buchanan was down here. And I'm like, This dude, I love watching him at Murray State, and watching him at the Hustle is equally as exciting. Now, moving over to the OVC tournament, we're going to close out with this. Talk about this tournament. Obviously, Murray State's coming in as heavy favorites, but you mentioned Southeast Missouri State. You mentioned Belmont. And then Morehead State, another team that could steal a bid possibly from, let's say, a Memphis, or let's say a Michigan, or somebody of that nature, because Murray State's in a tournament no matter what. Out of those top four seeds, Morehead State, Southeast Missouri State, and, of course, Belmont, Morehead State likely to be the bid stealer, as they put it?
Well, this has been a three-team race in the conference the entire year. I mean, it was Murray, Belmont, and Morehead. I think preseason rankings, it was Belmont, then Morehead, then Murray was third. And really, I mean, Southeast Missouri is that 4 seed in the way they've done their tournament. The Red Hawks, they get a single bye. They got to play Murray in the semifinals if they win and get to the semifinals. I don't see them doing much. It's a 3-team race. It's either Murray, Belmont, or Morehead State. And as far as matchups go, I see Murray into the championship game. And then Friday night's other semifinal game is going to be Belmont and Morehead State, unless something crazy happens. Now, Morehead State has kind of been weird over the last 2 weeks. They've kind of struggled. They dropped some really questionable games. Now, granted, they've been on the road, but, I mean, Morehead hasn't played great. But I think they played Belmont to 1-possession games in both of their games this year, and they split. So the winner of that game is going to play Murray State. And I think if it's Belmont, which I think a lot of people expect it to be, I take Murray in that one. Again, we've said Murray's dominated Belmont by 21 points, 23 points in both their meetings this year. Belmont's style of basketball, I feel like this year just doesn't match up as well against what Murray State is doing defensively and the way the team is built offensively as well. And I think Casey Alexander, Belmont's head coach, if they play Murray again, he's going to have to go back into the X's and O's and start redrawing a completely new game plan, which you could do, and they're very good. I mean, Belmont's great. I think Morehead State's the team that really intrigues me more than anything is that they're playing at their best. They are very, very, very good. If they get past Belmont, play Murray State, and Murray beat them by 10 the first time, but that was at Murray. The second game was one of those games that Murray had to come back. They were down 7 or 8 in the final 3 minutes of the game. Murray came back to win. But Morehead State, very good. Janai Broom is going to be the second best player in the OVC voting, Player of the Year voting, behind KJ Williams. Him and KJ going at it has been so much fun this year. It's at some point in both games they've gone back and forth and scored 10 straight points each. It's a great thing, and Morehead's just very physical, so they match up with Murray more. So if I'm Murray State, I would rather see Belmont in a championship game rather than Morehead State because Morehead's just a little bit more physical. But I think in the end of the day, it's going to be 3 teams that comes out of the OVC. If you're Beth DeBush, the commissioner of the OVC, you want to see Morehead or Belmont win because then you're going to get 2 teams in the NCAA tournament. Because really, whatever Murray does, that's fine, but they're already in the NCAA tournament.
Last question I have for you. I want to ask you about that rivalry. It seems like there's been a budding rivalry between Morehead State and Murray State. Obviously, Murray State's going on to another conference here, so I think it's next year is when they go to Missouri Valley.
Yeah.
Is that rivalry going to continue across, or are they going to discontinue? Because I love the rivalry. I think it's fun for college basketball to have a mid-major rivalry like that.
Well, Morehead and Murray have been somewhat of a rival the last year or so when Morehead's been good. But really the rivalry that's going to continue and be the really good one is Murray State Belmont. Yeah. Morehead, this might be the last time they play Morehead for a while. Yeah. I know there's a couple of games that Murray will keep since they're leaving the OVC. I think even though Austin Peay is leaving the OVC, I think Austin Peay is going to be in one of those non-conference games that Murray keeps. They may keep the Morehead game. I don't know if they'll be as likely to go to Morehead. They'd have to get Morehead to come to them as a non-conference opponent. But it's been really fun to watch the last 2 years. But again, I think the big rivalry that's going to keep growing and growing and growing from here on out for Murray is the Belmont game. Because if you talk to Murray State fans who were probably older than 40, they're going to say Austin Peay is their biggest rival because they've battled them for years. But if you talk to someone who's more kind of a recent fan or someone that's been around the program like me for the last just 10 years, is that it's Belmont hands down. I mean, as soon as Belmont joined the OVC, it was Murray State, Belmont, and every single game outside of these 2 games they played this year have been epic showdowns. Yeah. And the last 3 times that they played in the OVC championship game, it's either come down to the last second shot or it's come down to the last 2 or 3 possessions.
Any truth to the I want to just close you on a spot here. Any truth to the Murray side and Kentucky side of maybe the Wildcats and Racers playing in the future? I know some Kentucky fans have started the conversation because Western Kentucky's probably out of the picture because of the conference they're going to be playing in is no longer going to be relevant. I mean, the Conference USA is imploding. But Murray State seems to be a legitimate conversation piece for a lot of Kentucky fans right now.
It's so funny that the fact that those two schools have never played before. Yeah. And as good as both programs have been over the last 50 plus years, they've never played. And it's funny because you look at a lot of the mock bracket projections right now. Some of them have a potential Murray Kentucky showdown in the second round of the NCAA tournament, which would be a lot of fun. It is interesting to see going forward if Murray would play Kentucky or if Kentucky. It's really going to be on Kentucky. Murray is very open about wanting to play Kentucky. It's whether if Calipari and the Wildcats want to play Murray. And it's really interesting. It's like, well, they may play Murray next year. Just to say they play him next year, but Murray's going to lose a lot of guys off this team. So this might not be the best Murray team. I want to see Murray when they're really good. I wanted to see the Morant team against Kentucky. I want to see that, this team against Kentucky. But going forward, it's going to be interesting because Murray State's athletic director, a guy named Kevin Saul, is from Kentucky. Like he worked at Kentucky before coming to Murray State. So there's a lot of ties there. So I think it's a very real possibility. I'm just not sure if it's going to happen.
We've seen it in football, though. We've seen the spark in football. I think a couple of years ago, Murray State and Kentucky actually got a little skirmish. If I'm not mistaken, they got a little shoving match on. It was fun. I liked it. I mean, it was good for Kentucky, but I just think that it would be fun to have, because Western Kentucky plays Louisville every year.
Yeah.
It'd be fun for Kentucky to even travel down to the CFSB. I know Calipari and road games is a weird thing for him, but it'd be fun for me personally. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it'd be great for both schools. I think more so great for Murray just to get that opportunity to play against Kentucky finally. Like I said, only time will tell. I don't know. I'm not in those rooms with those meetings. I know a couple of teams that Murray is planning on playing in the next couple of years, but of that list that I know, it's not Kentucky.
He is Adam Wells. Tell them where they can follow you on Twitter, and we'll be talking with you in 2 weeks right after Selection Sunday.
Yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at the Adam B. Wells. That's hard to remember, although it's at the Adam B. Wells. And then Facebook is Adam Wells WPSD.
Good luck at the OVC tournament. Look forward to chatting with you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Mitch. I appreciate it, man.